And
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another podcast today. My name is Mistress Sweet Pea, and I will be your host as always. And we have my hubby in the background, Mr. Charles, or AKA Dr. Twilight. And thank you. Mwah. Thank you. Mwah, everyone. Awesome. It's so great to be back here again with everyone. Again, I'm Mistress Sweet Pea, and in the background, we got Dr. Twilight, AKA Charles. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about something a little different that's not technology today. It's regarding the Villisca Axe murders mystery. This is in Iowa, and Charles and I are going to be taking a trip there. So we're looking forward to it. So I figured, hey, if we're going to go there, let's do a podcast about it. Why not? So for the next 30 minutes, we will excite you and tell you all about this, which I'm sure a lot of people know. And again, I do want to point out there is some people believe in the paranormal and some don't. So I respect both sides. So whether you believe it or not is entirely up to you. I just want to present the facts that I've researched and found out. They may be different from what really happened, but again, I just want everyone to formulate their own opinion, and whether you believe in the paranormal or not is entirely up to you. Anyways, let's carry on, shall we? So, the Villisca Axe Murder House. This is quite. I can't wait to see this. I've seen this. I know other paranormal company TV shows have actually gone in there and spent the night and captured EVPs and orbs, and I would, if it wasn't so expensive, I would definitely stay a night. But I don't know if you checked out their website. I mean, it's a beautiful website, well done. It's just very pricey, and I understand why. I mean, it was a horrible tragedy. It's not something that you would take lightly by any means, but it's just extremely, extremely expensive. Anyways, so let's go ahead and get started. So, the Villisca axe murder started in the evening of 1912. The frantic let me backtrack. It was in 1912. It's basically, in a nutshell, a family that went to to just an average run of the mill family back in that time period. They went to church, they came home, and they went to bed that night. And the next day, their neighbor was concerned because they're not out taking care of their livestock, their farm, and that's when everything unfolded. So basically, the events of that fateful night back in 1912 spanned more than a century later. This case still haunts the public's imagination and draws thousands to the infamous murder house every year. So let's get started. So before the horror unfolded, the town of Villisca was a prosperous little town. It was like a stop along the way to Chicago, Burlington, Quincy Railroad. It was basically a farm. It was a community of farm families, hardworking businessmen like Josiah Moore, Josiah, his wife Sarah, and their four kids, Herman, Catherine, Arthur, and Paul. They were well known and respected in the Villisca community. So on Sunday, June 9th, 1912, the Moore family attended a special church program, returning home just after 9:30 p.m. that night. Alongside them were two friends, Ina and Lena Stillinger. They were invited by Catherine, one of their daughters, for a sleepover. So sometime during the night is when, between midnight and dawn, is when all this mayhem started. A killer entered the Moore home, and then using Josiah's own axe, this person or persons, again, I'm using both single and plural tense because there are some people that say that there was more than one murder, and there's some people that say that there was one murder. So it just depends on how accurate the information is. So basically, they committed a crime so savage that it shocked the nation. Each family member and those Stillinger girls were bludgeoned as they slept. The blows were so violent, especially to Josiah, that the axe left gorge marks in the walls and ceilings. I'm glad I never once saw what those photos look like, and I don't think I'd want to. I would. That's horrible. So the crime scene was bizarre even by today's standards. The killer covered the victims' faces, draped cloth over the mirrors, and closed the blinds and covered windows with clothing. Some believe that these acts had ritualistic significance or showed that the murderers of the murder or the murderers twisted psychology. The axe was left in the guest bedroom. No fingerprints, no clear evidence, just pure horror. Which I don't understand how that's possible because unless he wore a glove where you can't detect fingerprints, I'm not sure. So at 7 a.m. the next day, the neighbor Mary Peckham became concerned because usually the Moores are out and about taking care of their farm, their livestock. They have things to do, and they noticed that no one left the house. The house was dark. The shades were closed. They thought that was kind of odd, whereas they're up every day. So together with Josiah's brother Ross Moore, they enter the house and then discover the terrible scene of what happened. Word spread quickly, and soon the home was beset by officers, doctors, townfolk, and curiosity seekers, all eager and yet all horrified. Unfortunately, this rush contaminated most of the crime scene, making it hard for the detectives and the police to decipher what happened. After the discovery of the bodies in the Villisca house on that day on June 10th, 1912, the immediate aftermath was chaotic and deeply problematic for any investigation. You've got a crime scene that was basically tampered with. People are walking where they shouldn't be. Yes, the neighbors were concerned, but what they should have done, in my opinion, was call the police department and have them come in and assess the area and tape it off so they don't contaminate the crime scene. But then again, it's your concern for your neighbor is more important than anything, and I get it. I do understand, but that contamination caused, to this day, the unknown of who actually killed them. I believe, in my opinion, that if they didn't contaminate the crime scene, they probably would have been closure as to who killed this family. So, when they opened the door, they found the carnage everywhere, and it was horrible. The people that were there at the time were beside themselves. They couldn't even. It was just a heartbreaking scene. I can imagine. I can close my eyes and try to picture it, and it's just horrible. Doctors estimated the murders took place sometime between midnight and 5 a.m. The crime scene featured many bizarre details. Again, covered mirrors, food left untouched, bloody water in the kitchen, a slab of bacon near the axe suggested the killer lingered or performed ritual acts. Some evidence implied that Lena Stillinger was awake and resisted, and initially speculation they thought maybe she was sexually assaulted. But again, I don't know how the bacon part came into effect. That makes no sense. Unless he was hungry and he was going to make something to eat, but doesn't make any sense. Anyways, within minutes of the discovery, the town-wide telephone alert brought crowds of people to the murder house. People started swarming left and right, getting onto this property to find out what happened. These onlookers flooded every room, contaminated the scene yet again, and even taken souvenirs such as pieces of Josiah's skull. Like, the town folks on curiosity seekers were taking parts of bodies and carnage with them, like it was a trophy. I don't care who you are. That's disgusting. You don't take carnage or body parts. I mean, I don't know. That's messed up. I'm sorry, but that's just really messed up. The murder weapon, a bloody axe, was handled by dozens of curious citizens, making any forensic analysis impossible. Local law enforcement struggled to regain control and eventually called in the National Guard to establish a perimeter hours later. Hours later is hours too late because now you've got a fully 100% contaminated website crime scene, and people are walking, touching evidence. So, of course, they haven't caught the killers, and they're never going to. I will be shocked if there was enough evidence that was not contaminated that could prove who did it. Who did this? There's not. I would be shocked if there was. I just don't understand why they took them hours later just to call in the National Guard. I'm not sure why they did that. Anyways, carrying on, the coroner struggled with a comprised scene and could only assemble a coroner's jury late in the afternoon. The bodies were removed for examination nearly 24 hours after their death. Early photographic documentation was discouraged, losing valuable evidence. This catastrophic mismanagement decimated physical evidence and forever hindered investigators, ensuring the case would remain unsolved despite intense efforts in the years and decades that followed. So, unfortunately, there is these what ifs, and there's always going to be what ifs. Again, we're talking about 1912. Their standards are different from 2025, from today. Today we would have had probably the National Guard, state police, local police, and everything would have been parametered off, so there was no room for contamination. But 1912 in a small country town, I get it, but at the same time, you just the criminal or criminals got away with this, and that's not right. So, the investigation then followed what was exhaustive but ultimately proved to be fruitless. A parade of suspects emerged. The most infamous was a Reverend George Kelly, an intendant, a preacher with a history of mental illness and bizarre behavior. Kelly confessed, but then recanted his confession. He was eventually acquitted. Another major suspect was Frank Jones, which was Josiah Moore's former employer and local politician. Rumors swirled of business grudges and illicit affairs, but nothing could be proven. Other theories included a traveling serial killer or even local conspiracies. So, at this point, because of contaminated evidence, the dog down the street could have done it. Who knows? I'm not trying to take this as a joke. I mean, murder is not a joke, but I mean, you have a crime scene that's fully contaminated. It could be anyone that could have done it. So early forensic techniques were primitive. That's true. They were primitive then. The crime scene has been trampled before. The bloodhounds, they lost their scent. Crucial clues were missing or ignored that doomed this case from the beginning. The full investigation into the murders involved extensive but ultimately inconclusive efforts because of this. After the neighbor Mary Peckham raised the alarm on this and brought in the authorities, the investigation was again ruined. The coroner failed to take detailed notes, and even forensic efforts at that time, even though they were primitive, the coroner barely took any notes. They did come up with a list of major suspects. Again, we'll start from the beginning. Reverend George Kelly, a preacher who's mentally ill and wrote letters. He was visiting the town of Villisca. He confessed under duress, recanted, and then found not to be a credible source. He was tried twice and acquitted. Then there's a suspect by the name of Frank Jones. He's the Moore's former employer and a local politician. He basically said that there was alleged business feud and affair rumors, which occurred at the time, but there was never arrest or no charges were made. Then there's a few other people. This other person called William Blackie Mansfield. He was a suspected serial killer accused by a P.I. Wilkerson. He was linked to other axe murderers, but he had no alibi. I mean, he had a good alibi. He was They did arrest him, but then they released him because he had a good alibi, supposedly. Andrew Sawyer, he was a transient railroad worker. He was obsessed with the case, had confirmed suspicious behavior about it, but he had a verified alibi as well, and of course was dismissed. Then there was Henry Lee Moore, who was a convicted axe murderer, but not related to the Moore family. He murdered his mother, grandmother, and other people in the past. He was considered a suspect, but the police never charged him. Two more. There's Paul Mueller, theory from modern researchers, possibly a travel serial killer. He was suspected in a range of serial murders. His motivation was unknown, but again, the police never verified these claims, and he was never charged. The last person was Samuel Moyer, who was Josiah Moore's brother-in-law. He made threats to Moore, but he had a strong alibi that night and was never charged. So those were the lists that the police department came up with at the time. But again, when you have a contaminated crime scene, not really much you can do at that point. So the case was reopened multiple times, with the Burns Detective Agency's involvement leading to new suspects and trials, but again, no conviction. Multiple suspects fit the profile of a traveling killer, similar to the axe murders, but their theories went nowhere. It didn't pan out. Modern researchers such as Bill and Rachel James, they theorize that the killer could have been Paul Mueller based on similar crimes from the same area. But again, he had a strong alibi. And, I'm sorry, no, he didn't. That was Samuel Mueller. Paul Mueller, he fit the pattern, but the police department never questioned him. He was never charged. They never called him in to get a confession or to get a statement from him. Which leads to the other question, is why this case still remains unsolved. Again, the crime scene was destroyed for any forensic evidence. Also, back then in 1912, a lot of that stuff was still not even around. I mean, today we have DNA, we have all these tools available to us that weren't available in 1912. All major suspects were either acquitted, dismissed, or had plausible alibis, leaving the murder officials again scratching their heads saying, we don't know who killed this family. Now, let's move on to the legacy and legends and the hauntings of this. So despite decades that have passed, the murders again still remain unsolved. The Moore home is now one of America's most famous haunted houses, featured in books, documentaries, and podcasts. Restored to its 1912 appearance, the house draws thousands of people each year to it. Ghost hunters, true crime fans, people, and if you check out their website, you can actually spend the night there. They have overnight stays and guided tours. And many visitors have reported unsettling experiences, strange noises, mysterious sensations, and moving objects. The case has been a fixture in the paranormal folklore and haunted tourism, with many wondering if the victims themselves might still be lingering around. I think on that note, I need to have a sip of coffee because I'm definitely mixing up my words. Thank you. So, the legacy, legends, and horror of this murder mystery has profoundly shaped the identity of Villisca, Iowa, leaving a trail of true crime fascination, deep-seated folklore, and persistent hauntings that even endure until today. The cultural legacy of this is that the murderers left a permanent scar on this town and its residents at that time back in 1912. The story eclipsed to the sinking of the Titanic on front pages nationwide, dividing the small community over theories and suspects. So this small town that was a quaint town where everyone got along was starting to become a rift between people. Some people thought this person did it. They thought this person did it, so there was a rift was forming that couldn't that was ruining this community. The the crime occurred during Villisca's peak economic prosperity, but the notoriety brought a steady decline in population and local businesses, forever entwining the town's name with a tragedy. So when you think of the word Villisca, Iowa, everyone thinks of 1912 murder. So the murder split the murderers, they split congregations, they left families devastated, and cast a shadow that lingered for generations and still exists to this day. Documentaries, books, movies, podcasts, people talked about it for years, and it's something that we still talk about, even to this day. There's also been legends and folklores as well. Legends surround the Axe murder house began almost immediately after these murders occurred. Locals whispered that the town's name, which supposedly meant pretty place, might indeed be derived from Villisca, translated as evil place, a sinister reminder of the violence that was committed there. Folklore also grew around the mysterious details left by the killer, including covered mirrors, ritual objects, and the weird placement of bacon in the bedroom, and locking doors with missing keys, fueling a sense that the crime had a mystical significance to it. So there's all these theories going around. Who knows what's real and who knows what's fake? We don't know. Tales of a killer waiting in the attic while the family went about their daily lives is the one thing, and that's that people are saying, and that's what I've heard too. I've heard that the killer was in the attic holding his axe behind him, just sitting there waiting until nighttime, until everyone went to bed, and then doing his duty, and then doing the killing. Is that right? I don't know. I've heard so many stories. Now, again, if you go to their website, the Villisca, it's called murderhouse.com. You can actually check out. It's a great website. You have a number you can call. They tell you exactly where you can go to, how much the prices are. For staying overnight, you can book a tour, get gift certificates. Very interested. Again, something to definitely consider. Paranormal investigators, they flock to this place all the time. They've captured voices, moving objects, cold drafts, ghostly apparitions. Frequent visitors report children's voices, shadows, physical sensations like scratching or being touched by something unseen. Again, it depends on what you make of it. There are some that believe in the paranormal, some that don't. So take it however way you want to take that. So the theories, even to this day, still continue. They still talk about who killed this family, and their list that I read to you earlier is still a what if. They still believe that any one of those people could have done it. We don't know who killed them. That's horrible, though. In conclusion, more than a century has passed since the Moors and the Stillinger sisters were murdered, but the Villisca Axe murders are far from forgotten. Beyond the facts and theories, the case still provokes reflection on the nature of evil, the flaws in the criminal justice system, and the persistence of mystery. As midnight falls, one must wonder what secrets that house still holds, and if the darkness has truly left Villisca. And in the paranormal realm, we call it a record. A record just plays. It goes around and around and it some people wonder, and I wonder too, are the souls of this family and those sisters, are they still there, reliving it all over again and again? Are their souls still trapped there, or have they moved on? Again, it just depends on whether you're a believer or not of the paranormal. On a final note, I just want to let everyone know the ownership of the house changed hands in 2024, is now managed by the U.S. Ghost Adventures, which offers daily tours, stays, and ghost hunts. You can also rent ghost hunting equipment and participate in cemetery tours. It's still a popular destination for those interested in paranormal phenomena, true crime, and American history. So again, the website you want to check out, I'm on it right now. It's murderhouse.com. You can click around, look at the pictures, book a tour, stay overnight, get gift certificates. It is a small town. There's not much there, but it's definitely worth checking out. And on that note, I would like to thank everyone for tuning into my podcast today. And again, if you have a topic that you would like me to discuss on my podcast, I'm more than happy to consider. Please, you can either call or text. Our numbers are 802-636-7859 or 631-816-5291. And please note, if you do text, just let us know that you watched our podcast and you have an idea for one of our shows. Again, we are a tech, our podcasts are mostly tech, but every once in a while we like to switch it up and do something different, like today with the Villisca axe murders. Again, I thank you for tuning in. Please be kind to each other, be friendly, smile, and love, peace and love to all. Thank you. Bye for now.
Alrighty.
That's 26, so even if it's short, you still have a